Welcome back to my critique of Anita Sarkeesian's Tropes vs. Women in Video Gaming, Episode 1, Damsels in Distress. Now, when we left off, I'd first talked about how disingenuous her title is because, in her own words, she feels very alienated from feminism. And so I kind of have an issue with one calling themselves a feminist and not really caring much for the movement. Then I talked about how if anybody was turning Princess Peach into an object or objectifying them, it was Anita herself in her analyses. But let me go further than that. Two games she didn't even mention in her video, not even screenshotted in her video, was Mario is Missing and Luigi's Mansion, both of which featured Mario being kidnapped or depowered, as she likes to put it, and Luigi having to go after him. Oh, but because a woman's not involved, somehow this is just a bromance thing, right? I mean, I don't get how you do this much research and you don't even touch on that game. She kind of briefly, I think, screenshotted Super Princess Peach, but the thing that she basically tried to talk about, if I'm remembering correctly, was the fact that she uses emotions and a parasol, which she still considers being somehow depowering, but Mario's still kidnapped. Mario still has to be saved for them. And what about the Yoshi Island games, where Mario's a baby, pretty much a helpless baby for the most part, and Yoshi's the one who has to take care of him? But the fact that she moved the goalpost, because what she would say is, oh, these are non-canon. Just like Super Mario Sunshine is technically canon, but not canon enough for her, because even though she's not doing anything and she's not shown in a bad light, it's still wrong that Mario is the protagonist, is what I took away from that, because she barely touches on that. Then she gets into the Zelda games, and one of the things that I thought was rather hilarious about the Zelda section of it was the fact that she shows a concept piece of art and doesn't even mention where it's from, just calling that she has the capabilities of being a sidekick without mentioning Zelda Spirit Tracks. Never mind that the name is actually named Zelda and not Link. Never mind the CDI game, in which case, which wasn't handled by Nintendo, and it was obvious she was going after Nintendo, as the feminist blogger whose link is down in the underbar towards the bottom also points out. But I'll get to that in just a moment. But there's a CDI game which is considered arguably one of the best in the series, and that's not saying much because those CDI games were pretty terrible, that is nothing but Zelda going off on an adventure, and she's very powerful. Oh, but that doesn't fit the narrative, and because CDI isn't the main part of the big three, then we can't examine that, because we can't care about that, because that doesn't fit the narrative. That does not fit in her stuff. And in Spirit Tracks, she's got, in many ways, more power to do more than Link does in the game. Being in the corporeal form, she can take on different roles, which, oh, I guess because some of the characters who are bigger and stronger happen to be men, that it's still sexist because she's using a man to do things that the game is implying on some level, whether subconscious or otherwise, that she couldn't do it herself. At least not without being able to use that big, strong body, right? Going back to our discussion that if I draw a woman who I find appealing in my artwork, I'm being subconsciously sexist. Because especially if I post it, I'm subjecting women to what I think a woman is, and it can't be that I'm just interested in that kind of woman, and that I drew her because it's what my interest is. It's what I'm using my talent for. No, that can't be it. It's that I'm conditioned to like that kind of woman that I tend to draw, and therefore I'm being subconsciously sexist. But that's not all I had issue with. I had issue with the fact that she just didn't seem to care, or she moves the goalpost. What about Resident Evil 3, where almost nothing has almost nothing to do with men ultimately helping Jill escape this city, but oh wait, that's right. Going back to her Slutwalk article, this doesn't count because Jill's only a protagonist because she's dressed like a slut. Right? Right? Oh, but you know, maybe I would actually have an idea of what Anita felt about that if she would have actually shown that. And I hear people talking about the new Tomb Raider. I haven't played it myself, but apparently she becomes a very self-sufficient woman. And the article down in the feminist article who is, you know, dissecting Anita's analyses does bring it up. But I'll let the picture underneath the feminist article say it all, though. A modern twist on the damsel in distress is no less tropey, no matter how good the game. Which I think kind of fits a bit of the narrative here of, if it doesn't fit our narrative, but it's clearly out in the open, we're just going to somehow find a way to continue to still make it wrong, to still make it sexist. She doesn't get into Codename Veronica, it's rebranded Codename Veronica X for the PS2. Yes, a guy opens up her jail cell when all heck is breaking loose. But that's because he doesn't want her trapped in a place where she has nowhere to go to be eaten by zombies. He gives her a chance, just before he dies, I might add, to make it on her own. Not to mention some of the one major male companion she meets later gets turned into a monster and she has to slay it to get through the game. He doesn't really help all that much because she's not really helpless. And she's not dressed as a slut, unless, I guess, a sort of midriff being exposed means that you're a slut. Never mind that Claire Redfield shows herself to be a strong woman who can empathize with men on the battlefield, but that's not her MO. That's not something that defines her. If anything, the fact that she made it to the end like she did means so much. But oh, no, no, no. We've got to gloss over that point because it doesn't fit the narrative. Okay, let's go another one. Mirror's Edge. Oh, because she's wearing a halter top running shirt. That's being sexist, even though you don't generally see her except for in reflections. But she gets around without the help of men. She has to find her own route. She has to use her own physical prowess and abilities. And nobody's saying that she's weaker than any of the other runners in the game, that she somehow can't go on certain missions because only boys can go on those missions. No! None of that is present in that game. Or let me give you another major example, Portal 1 and 2. Let's go actually with the latter, Portal 2. Sure, you could say Wheatley's there, and he opens up doors, but oh, what, Chell's supposed to be able to plug herself into pod systems? Oh, no, that's right. The systems of Aperture Science are sexist because they're made for pods, which are stereotypically male pods, so that she is still somehow depowered, even though the game cannot get to where it gets, especially at the very end. Spoiler alert, by the way, because I'm going to get into the ending, and I don't want people being more angry at me that I spoiled the end of Portal 2 than that I'm trying to analyze this as best as I can on a more academic standpoint here. Oh, right, that's right. As some of my video links show, she wants to take feminism out of academia because there's a lot of big words, and it's not understandable to her. But, okay, the end of Portal 2, you have Chell and you have Gladys, two females. And because of Chell's work, you eventually dethrone and get Wheatley away so that Gladys can resume her abilities. And then, heck, the rest of Portal's co-op is Gladys being in charge. Because Atlas or the other one is not, Peabody is not what we would consider stereotypically female. That doesn't count. I could go on and on. I'm not even touching on Metroid, which, as far as I'm concerned, Other M doesn't count. Team Ninja Theory has really been screwing up properties lately. I don't like the digital FU they gave to Devil May Cry fans in the new Devil May Cry. That's part of a reason why I'm never going to play that game, because I don't believe in such childish behavior. And Team Ninja Theory kind of nerfed Metroids, Ari and Samus. I know this could be debated to death. Well, it gives her a backstory. It makes her more human. It makes her more this. It makes her more that. You don't see that in the Metroid Prime games. You don't see that in the canon main Metroid game for NES. But, oh no, Miss Sarkeesian, who claims to be an Nintendo and a Genesis fan, she decided to neglect to mention that for what I just said. Oh no, oh I get it. She didn't mention it. It doesn't count because if you get the good ending of Metroid, she's in a bikini at the end. Therefore, showing her not just the big reveal that she's a woman, never mind the graphical limitations of showing characters at that point in time. No, the fact that she seems to be in a bikini means that we're objectifying her at the very end of this game, even though most of us had no clue that she was a male, and I think that was a smart decision on Nintendo's part, because if nothing else, that showed us that, oh hey, I've been kicking butt on my own against a world of Metroids, only to find out that, hey, it's not a sausage fest in here. It's actually a woman inside that armor. And she's been inducted into the collective love of characters. And most times, even when she gets down to the Zero suit, oh what, because the Zero suit is skin tight, that's sexist, so it doesn't count? See what I mean? There is no winning here. When the goalposts are constantly being moved because they want to have, or the narrative seems to be at this point that she wants to have almost total control of saying that this is all wrong. This is all sexist. Miyamoto is being sexist, whether he realizes it or not, and so on and so forth. Look, I'm all for equality in gaming. I absolutely am. I'm all for equal representation, but this is not the woman to be the voice of this. This is not the woman who you want to be the face of feminist gaming in this day and age. And to further prove that beyond everything else, I've got a link down in the underbar to Sickmouth, who did a rather great dissection of all the things that are wrong, including the sex negativity of Miss Anita, that can impact her ability to be objective, her ability to look at these situations and these scenarios with a rather unbiased mind or set or ideals, and be able to see some of these things for what they are. Does it really matter that at the end of Metroid, if you get the good ending, that Samus is in a bikini? I'm sure this is part 2 of her series where she's going to deconstruct that. But is that really the worst of it? It's not like she's kissing a male co-player. It's not like she's giving herself to anybody else. If anything, she's out there in space alone, kicking butt, and is every bit of a butt kicker as any male counterpart you could put up against her. If anything, that's why I'm looking forward to her. That's why I'm looking forward to if they do Star Fox X Metroid for the Wii U. But again, that's not confirmed. I'm going to wrap this up with the bigger problem I had with this series, and it deals with Dinosaur Island. So part 3 coming up.